Here it is.
What are you talking about?
All your questions will be answered.
Welcome to the world of
Cinema.
That's our take. Welcome to That's Our Take, where we, the Jacksons, discuss many of the over 12,000 movies we have seen with a focus on classic cinema. Today, we have a very special guest whose work you've seen on such great shows as The Flight Attendant, Dexter New Blood, and You. You can see some of her stellar work on the current series Daredevil Born Again. She is the winner of the Gerald Hirschfeld ASC Cinematography Award. We are, of course, talking about the talented cinematographer, Hilary Fyfe Spera. Hilary, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
So we talk about aspects of filmmaking that most people probably aren't as aware of. And cinematography is certainly one that I think people know sort of about, but they don't know like everything that you do as a cinematographer. And we saw Run that you shot, and I just remember thinking, gosh, this is really shot very well. And so I looked you up, and it just went from there. And I'm like, oh, she's doing Daredevil. I didn't know that. That was a really cool movie.
I love that movie. I'm so proud of that film and the filmmakers, and it was an amazing team. We had a blast. We shot in Winnipeg, which is not easy. It is very cold. But yeah, no, that film was really special, and we did some really fun stuff on it. I had a blast.
The whole tone was neat. It was kind of like it was almost black and white, with color tinted in it. Like it was a really cool grade across that movie. So I don't know. We enjoyed it. Sarah Paulson was great.
She's great. And she's a force of nature. That woman is
cool.
cool.
Sure. Yeah, if you're listening, check that movie out. It's really good. It's a lot of fun and just shot very well. So I've read some about you. So you started as a still photographer, and then from what I understand, you were taking like a class or a film class or something, and you were handed a 16 millimeter camera, and you said, go shoot some stuff. And then that was it, right? You caught the bug.
Yeah. I mean, I never was professionally a still photographer. It was just like my hobby. I loved it.
Okay.
And I came as a kid, always sort of had a camera around and never really made like home movies. But my first experience, making anything was in college when I went there and sort of thinking I would do photography. And then one thing led to another. And I was in film classes, like shooting student movies and working with a Bolex and cutting it on a Steenbeck, and just fell in love with the whole process. And not just the making of it and like sort of being a cinematographer, but like the collaboration of working with the team and kind of putting our heads together and telling a story. Like that was the part that I loved the most. And and I was also in school to be a vet. So it was like a decision between cinematography and pre-vet. And I'm still waiting for that, that nature film or something I'll make someday. It allows me to combine my passions. But yeah, that's true. That's how that all went down.
I'm always interested when we talk to everybody, like how did it start? And they're like, well, it was either this or it was going to be like an engineer or something. And so it's just like, well, these are two very diverse roads.
So different. Yeah. And I think my dad was like, should you go to law school? Like no one,
You mentioned collaboration, so I want to talk about that. So something else that I'm learning as we keep talking with people is, so I've shot some movies, just small stuff, here and there for college courses and whatnot. And I learned discovered very quickly how selfish of a filmmaker I am. And I find myself to be along the same lines like Hitchcock or Wilder. I'm nowhere near as talented. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying in the same vein as like, I wrote it, I directed it, you do what I say kind of thing. But I just honestly expected that mentality from kind of everybody else in the business. But literally every single person we've talked to has just championed this idea of collaboration. And it's really it's shedding everything I've thought about, like egos in the system and all that stuff. So you too, you enjoy the bouncing off of ideas and stuff.
Yeah, it's everything to me. I mean, I truly love it. I mean, I love what I do. I love making images and finding a way to tell a story through images, but collaboration is the most fun for me. I mean, just finding like-minded people that are also passionate about it and bring so much to the table, and then sort of like getting out of their way so that they can do their job and enlighten me. And I mean, I think in 0 out of 0 times has my idea been the only idea or the best idea. And it only is good when it's sort of built upon from other people's thoughts and impressions. And my single most favorite thing to do is sort of just to sit down with my collaborators and be like, okay, here's the thought. What do you guys think? And like, let's all kind of like make it better. And that goes on both directions, like both working with my team, like from camera department, grip and electric, and, also like collaborating with art department and costume and everything. But then it also goes on the other direction of like working with directors and producers and trying to sort of interpret their vision and then bring some of me to the table to that, and I just think it's the coolest job to be able to be like, "Hey, here's all of our life experience, our sort of like, wandering and all of what life taught us, and like bringing that together and making this thing that's an impression of the idea." And certainly there's like needs to be one voice, you need to sort of like get yourself out in front of it and be like, "This is the idea, now I can represent it and implement it." You can't just be on set being like, "What does everyone think?" Like, constantly, I think that work really has to happen in prep, but it's just magical. Like, when it works, when everyone's kind of on the same page and we're working towards the same goal, you feel invincible. I feel invincible. I feel like it's, like, the coolest, most enriching work. That said, when it doesn't work, it's hard because you're sort of bouncing against each other and, a lot of times it is ego related, and if people kinda can't let go or, like, can't let other things in, then you're in a tough situation. But I have to say, like, more often than not, 9.5 times out of 10, it's the first thing. It's really about that open-hearted collaboration. And I think, that's all about who you hire and who you work with, and you have to be really careful about choosing that, It's like you're in a relationship, like, it's a long period of time, I've never done a project that's been shorter than, a few months and goes up to years, and so it's something that is really, you're putting your heart and soul and time into it, which is it's really all we have, as human beings, so
I want to get back to what you were talking about with the hiring your team and kind of constructing that, but something in working with other people in your collaboration, like you said, you get out of other people's way. You want to make sure that everyone's heard and stuff. So as and you kind of said this, you do have to present it, right? And that's probably the director side of the DP, right? Being the person is like, this is what we've done. How much, working not so much with the team you create, but with the other team, like the director, producer, and all that. So how much creative control do you have? And how does that work? Do you just sort of do what the director or producer is telling you to do, or do you get to instigate some ideas too? You're like, no, this is what I was thinking.
I mean, it's both. I think that and it depends on the project, I think
Mm,
I've been really fortunate, and I think I also somewhere in me kinda gravitate towards projects that allow me to bring something to the table. I think that if I, in the interview process or in the very beginning sort of realized or felt that I was not really that wasn't open to that, I think I'd be less interested in bringing myself to that project just because I think it's not the best way that I work. So, yeah, in a perfect world, it's like I'm hearing their vision and we're all bringing something to it. It's like, okay, great. This is the start. Run's a really great example of that. Anish, the director, who's amazing. I mean, he's such a visionary and he had so many amazing ideas. And that was from the jump. Like he presented me when we first started these boards. He basically boarded every single shot, every frame of the movie. And it was amazing to have that. But then he was also open to be like, okay, what if we combine this? Or what if we sort of like, did this, but then, evolved it into this, or like, would you be open to that? And he was super open to that conversation and collaboration. And I think it just made the whole thing stronger. And it was a cool way to kind of check both ourselves and say, like, does this work? And do you guys believe it? And, it was just with the producers too, like that movie was such an open forum of like, let's bring something to the table, but let's also like keep ourselves honest and make sure it's working. And we're not just like doing a cool camera move for the sake of being a cool camera move. Like it needs to drive the story forward. So I think, I definitely want to put myself in the projects and in the work because otherwise it's like, what really, I guess, there is some satisfaction just kind of executing. And sometimes it just has to be that. But I think like, I do this because I love it. And that really is a huge part of it is bringing my experience and kind of my eyeball and brain to the project if I can. And it
yeah.
also just on the days that are hard and, you're like got no gas in the tank, it's like having that passion is what gets you through and feeling like you're involved in that way really, I think, at least for me, really helps me kind of stay on the path. But um yeah, and the bigger the project and the more stakes, it's like perhaps it gets a little bit more at times like you're just executing, but that's okay too. And maybe it's up to you to find that way that you can put yourself in it. You can really connect to it. So that's also kind of what I consider my job.
You mentioned, you don't want to just be kind of shooting something just for shooting something, right? Um, is that kind of a temptation sometimes to just, do a style over substance, because you're so like, oh, I've got this really great shot. Oh, it doesn't really work, with the story.
Not for me. I self-regulate. I'm like, this it's just cool for cool's sake. And, I have to let this one go. I have to, this one, even though it's so cool but maybe use it in the future, use it when it fits. And, I feel like even like my camera department that I work with a lot, operators specifically will be like, we'll see a shot, like, "Let me show you this," and then, like, we'll know right away. We're like, "It's awesome," but it just isn't, it's just calling too much attention to itself, and it doesn't propel the story forward, or it's not in line with, like, the visual thesis of the character that we're trying to sort of show and what's in their head, and I really believe that when you see those shots on screen, they stand out. You're like, "Oh, that's kinda like it took me
Oh, for
out
sure.
of the moment," So
Yeah.
try and stay away from that, but I'm a purist in that way, maybe I should let that guard down a little bit sometimes, but I really do love staying, like, on that path, as much as I can, so
Well, no, I think it's because you're a storyteller too. I don't think it's because you're trying to suppress anything or anything. It's just like very clearly when what I've seen, you're like you said, executing the story. You're getting that across. Um, the lighting and color choices that you make, so like in Daredevil, especially, it's just like, oh yeah, I feel like this is that character's look. So I think you do a really great job in telling the story visually,
yeah.
which is cinema.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe this is a strong word, but it's kind of selfish to not do that in my opinion. It's like you're
Mm,
there to really serve the story and, yeah, and with Daredevil, like, I mean, there was always a reason behind everything, and I loved that, and I love with the directors of the first block of season 1 and then also we're in season 2, Justin and Aaron, they also got behind that as well, and it was a really nice collaboration because they were like, "This has to have a reason, it has to serve a purpose, it can't just be cool," and I think that that's what we're doing. That's why we're all there. So,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
You're there to work together. You're there to bring forth this one thing, and you talked about hiring, so I'm curious, how do you get in on the job? Do you does someone like does your agent send you a script and you're like, "Oh, I'd love to shoot this," and you like submit a catalog of yours or, profile or something? How do you get involved?
Yeah, it's kinda 2 different ways. One is definitely through my agent, who's amazing, and we've been together a really long time, Tara Cromer. Uh, she will send me a script, and she'll be like, "They're interested in meeting you," or "This is available," and then I'll read it and sometimes do a lookbook, sometimes not, kinda depending on the project, but I like to do a lookbook, kind of images that come to mind and then present that just like a normal interview. But other times it comes from, like, a friend of a friend or a connection or somebody I've worked with before, and I love those times because it just feels like you have a little bit more insight on kind of like who the person is and the connection. But, Daredevil, for example, came through, the first example, which was just like a script that was out there, and they, actually didn't wanna tell me anything about what they were thinking visually. They just wanted to be open to my impressions, which was amazing and nerve-wracking. And
Mm,
so I just took a giant leap and pitched them kind of what was in my head without knowing a ton about the comic book, just based on the script and the character that I was reading and sort of the world that it seemed like it was. And, you know, somehow they went for it, which was cool. And, yeah, then that's sort of how that began. But, it's all different, and oftentimes it's multiple interviews. It's like it's not just one, it's sometimes, multiple just to make sure we're all on the same page, which I actually really appreciate because, it is this invested relationship, and you kinda wanna make sure you're getting involved in the right way with the right folks, that you're a good match, so
Yeah, I can give you some examples of when I'm like, "Whoa, did they meet with the DP on this
Yeah.
movie?" Like one I can think of, and I actually like the movie, is Rocky 5.
Oh, interesting. Haven't seen it.
And you haven't seen it?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, many people think it's the worst of the series, but they're all
Okay.
wrong. Have you seen Rocky from
Yes, I have.
'76? Okay. So, I forgot who shot that movie, but John G. Alvinson, worked really closely with him and everything. And then Alvinson was brought back for Rocky 5, and he wanted that same cool, dark, kinda like '70s look that he had in the first movie. And instead, he got this guy that was, like, used to shooting comedies or something. So everything's brightly lit,
Oh,
and there's just like, man, this guy is not conveying anything of these characters or the story. And so it's just a weird combination. It takes me out of it sometimes. But I really like the movie still. It's that good of a story. But yeah, I mean, you've seen it where you're just like, what choices did they make?
oh, yeah. I mean, I I feel like a friend of mine, we used to say this, it's like whenever you're noticing the cinematography over the film, you're, like, in trouble in either way. Either it's really good looking or if it's not working and really bad. It's like you should never be just noticing the visuals. It's like you're really in trouble in
Yeah, yeah.
that situation. Um,
I used to do, a lot of tech work for stage work for theater, and that's kinda what my motto was. I'm like, a great set supports what everybody's seeing, and
exactly.
you can't if they're paying attention to the set more than the actors, then something's wrong. There's no cohesiveness there.
Yeah. But it's really a shame when that happens, like you're saying, where it's like, it seems like, the visual team and the direction or the performance just is off. It's like people are on different pages. It does manifest on screen and it's like, oh boy, like something went wrong. And sometimes I feel like it's not anyone's fault. It's just like people having different conversations in different bubbles and it just didn't gel.
Yeah,
Um, but
yeah. It's unfortunate.
it is unfortunate.
Now, going back to, like, how you get involved with stuff, I'm gonna quote you. Uh,
Oh boy.
so you once said, quote, "I'm always going to say yes if an opportunity comes up. Answer is always yes." And that has taken me to some really interesting and great places. Do you still feel this way? And if you do, how's that panned out for you?
100%. I mean, I think when I was younger coming up, the answer was always yes. And, for reasons that I just needed and wanted those opportunities and that experience. And they did take me to wild places that I'm so grateful for looking back. I can't imagine not doing them. And now too, it's like the answer is always yes, but I think it's with like the sort of knowledge that I have to protect a little bit of like time and investment. It's like we have to be a little careful of that. But it's like the answer is yes in the way that it's like whatever crazy adventure or like the hardest thing or something I haven't done before, it's never no because of those reasons. It's always yes because of those reasons. So I think it's
Mm,
like sort of evolved in terms of like I just definitely wanna take whatever opportunity that challenges me the most, and the answer to that is never like, "Well, I don't know, there's all these reasons why I shouldn't do it." It's like, "Let's do it, let's go," you know? So, saying yes it really has, like, allowed me to do some amazing things, and I think despite the fear in the back of my head and all the worry and all the sort of anxiety about, like, "Should I?" and just trying to, like, be smart about it, but also just like, kind of embrace the opportunity. I think that has really allowed me to be, at least, at the very least, very varied in terms of my experience, which I'm really proud of. So
yeah. So when you're sought after, or when you do go in and you kind of pitch in for a movie and they're interviewing you, they're trying to get kind of a feel and tell you what's going on. I'm sure you're kind of interviewing them a little bit too, right? You want to know what they want. So,
yeah.
like, what are some of the things that you look for when, like, what are some of the questions that you ask them, or what is it that you're wanting information wise from them on what your approach is going to be? Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, definitely, I think it's gotta be an interview on both sides, and, not to say, like I mean, it sounds almost, like, egotistical, I don't mean it that way, it's just really so that it works for everybody. But, I think for me, it's collaboration's huge, like, getting a sense of how much they want my input, how much room there is to bring something to the table, like, like, for example, something just came to mind, it's like doing a TV show, like, I'll like to set the look of the show as opposed to coming on something of a look that's sort of already set, unless it's something that's, like, an amazing thing that I'm just really, into anyway, but, things like that, like, is there room for me to kind of make my own kind of impression on it and have something to say? And also just, good people, like, people that are nice and kind and, you wanna collaborate with and that I can bring my crew on and, because I feel responsible for their time as well, and so I wanna make sure we're all, you know, hitching our wagon to a good situation, and so, yeah, I think it's important that it's almost like, I mean, more and more I say it, it sounds like it's like dating, it's like a relationship, but it's like you really do, you have to,
Well,
like, make sure that it's gonna be cool on both sides, but in terms of, like, the comforts, I don't really ask those questions like, "Am I gonna have this, that, or the other thing?" Because 'Cause I'm kinda cool with whatever. I'll sleep on the floor as long as we're making a really great project,
yeah,
like, it's
yeah.
kind of all and the same goes for budget, like, I'd
Yeah,
much
I was gonna ask about that, yeah.
yeah, it's like, I'd much rather, we all have to live, obviously, but I'd much rather the money go to the screen, like, to the project, to, like, putting it there so that we can have this thing that we're really proud of, and my crew I'm so fortunate, we're all, like, gung ho, and the people I work with are really invested, and so we will go the extra mile and, work a little longer, whatever, do phone calls on weekends or whatever it takes, but at the same time, I would much rather, yeah, it just go to the thing as opposed to, like, my pocket, but I shouldn't say that out loud because, my agent's like, "What?" But, yeah.
Or you'll just get a whole, like, slew of filmmakers, like, "Hillary, you're hired," you know?
Yeah, you work for free. No, I mean, honestly, the projects I have done for free are some of my favorite I've ever done, so,
Mhm,
never know. You never know.
yeah. So you talk about your crew, like, do you have you have your people, right? You how extensive is your crew? Like, what do they make up as far as the team? You got a gaffer and what else? So what else you got in your crew?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate that I've worked kind of all over the place, so I have people that I love kind of in different physical geographical locations, but in New York, I have probably the deepest crew, New York, LA, and it's a camera team which comprise of operators and ACs and DIT, and then the grip and electric is more like just the heads of department, like gaffer, key grip, and then they have their team, and certainly the people on their team that we worked with before love having, like, repeat. It's just so great to have that shorthand with the crew where you've worked with before and that you kinda don't even have to say it or finish your sentence, and they just kind of know, and I think, like, that's the goal for me is just, like, staying the same throughout and moving on to different projects. It's hard when, like, you get out of rhythm and people obviously need to work, but, if I had my way and we could just keep going forever, that would just be a dream, and also keep absorbing people as we go, and it's just really like, we did this kind of amazing run where we did Dexter, this, Warner Brothers film called The Parenting, and then we did Daredevil, kinda with the same camera department throughout, and it was amazing. It was just so fun to have that, like, 6-year run of just, like, all this work of with the same people within reason, and, yeah, it's a gift. It's like a total gift, but that said, I love working other places too and meeting new people, and it's kinda like
Mhm.
expanding the network, so it's really fun.
I wanna ask you this. When it comes to picking projects, or doing the projects, I guess, well, both. There's 2 aspects I think for me that I see. There's the story aspect and the characters, and then, there's the aesthetic, right? The look of things. You mentioned before, I've heard you say this, man, that y with
Allegedly.
uh, I think you were talking about Daredevil specifically. You were talking about, the characters and how you really enjoy that they are working through their inner demons, working with them, right? Trying
Yeah.
to, uh, now, you gave us a list of some movies prior, and, I'm gonna say, I'll just list some of them right now. So, like, The French Connection and, Klute and Thief, all of which star characters that are socially unsavory,
Mhm.
and disreputable. And does that draw you in? I mean, like, is that something you look for in a project, kind of, or is that like something that piques your interest? You're like, ooh, I really want to shoot this dichotomous character, you know?
Yeah, I think I'm having a big revelation of myself at this
Oh,
moment. You totally nailed it. I'm big on inner demons. I mean, I love it. I think that we all have them. We're all layered, and yeah, I think there's just so much there to represent visually from a character standpoint, and also just the worlds that revolve around them. I mean, another film I don't think I mentioned, but just came to mind was like Killing of a Chinese Bookie, the Cassavetes film. It's like just these worlds that have layers upon layers, but I love a dark corner. I love getting lost in a dark corner. I kind of seek it out, you know. I go on these like road trips in order to reset my brain and just take a camera with me. And like I'm always seeking out like what's on the edge, what's on the fringe, you know, whether it's a dive bar or like, you know, just some strange little pocket of the world. And yeah, those films, I mean, they all really do. They're all neo-noirs in that way. They weirdly, I realized, so Thief is 1981, but Klute and French Connection are both 71. And
yeah,
it's interesting that it's like there was that sort of bracket of time that, you know, that was on the tip of everyone's brain and tongue. It was really happening in America. And yeah, I'm just really drawn to it, I think.
yeah. Well, that's the new Hollywood era, the 70s. So, like, for everybody who's listening, so there's the motion picture production code that was put into place in 1934, and it started thinning out in the late 50s, but got completely dissolved in 1968, and that's when they established the rating system. I think at the time it was basically like G, PG, and R. I think were the ratings. Actually X, because Midnight Cowboy got an X rating, and then they changed it to an R. Um, anyway, so New Hollywood. So now with this new system, filmmakers were given kind of a chance to really just open things up. And you can see it. It's almost like night and day. You look at like 1968 versus 1969 or 70, and it's just like, whoa, a door opened somewhere, and just filmmaking changed, storytelling changed, and they just went right for it. And yeah, Clue and French Connection were of the earliest ones for that. And speaking of these two specifically, actually, really kind of that whole time, not just the unsavoriness of the characters, right? Not just going there, but there's the aesthetic. So these movies um, tend to have a very voyeuristic, almost documentary method of filmmaking they're just really stylized. And
Yeah.
this is definitely in Daredevil, you stamp that in, right? You hit that. It feels like I'm watching something from that time period. The long zooms, the anamorphic screen, just the lighting, you nailed it. What about this appeals to you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, another one, Friends of Eddie Coyle, like this sort of very observational, surveillancy, you know, long lens, like, but then also combined with like wide lenses close in the shit, you know, like very, very present, like, you know, the famous car chase in French Connection, you know, where
Yeah,
they cameras mounted on the car while Hackman's driving it, you know, and like driving through real traffic. And anyway, you know, all of that stuff really appeals to me. And I think it is because of this documentary background that I have as well, where it's like that combined with like trying to get into the guts and like figure out what we're all about and then just like really like get into the visceral of it all. It's just there's something about that aspect of filmmaking that I'm really attracted to. You know, I think it's like seeing not just the underbelly, but like what's really in all of us in while we're in the world. And I think that, yeah, those films, weirdly, because I'm only making the connection now of like their similarities, you know. I think the aesthetic of them, how they're very gritty and very but beautiful, very cinematic, a lot of natural lighting, a lot of like uncontrolled lighting, not afraid to kind of shoot with available light, and then also frames that are really present, you know, combined with these like long 70s zooms and like you said, like voyeuristic kind of surveillancy stuff. And then just really real. Like the scene in Thief when he's in the diner talking to Tuesday Well is like such a amazing scene in its simplicity, and it's all about what they're saying and what they're
Right.
not saying. And it's like that to me is like both knowing when to like just sort of make it simple, not have the aesthetic get in the way, but then there's like so much beauty in that too. So yeah, I think those are like the sweet spot for me where it can be really, and we try to do this with Daredevil too, like it can be really cinematic, but can also be really grounded and really human. And what drew me to Daredevil was the same thing. It's like it's about a really damaged cou few characters. Like they all have all these layers. They're all different sides of the same coin. They're all dealing with their demons. And then New York being it's filled with multitudes as well. It's like an incredible backdrop for it. And we were just there to capture it. It's like, let's just, be there for it. But then also have these ways of, like bringing it very into a really cinematic world and like heightening it and using color to do that and represent different emotional states and aspects of their character. And so it was just like a playground of all of these things kind of in one on that project, which was very cool.
I really enjoy just cinema in general, and I love uh, gleaning from other people besides the performers, besides the writer, all these other aspects, how to tell a story. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the director Anthony Mann.
Oh yeah.
Um, he did he's had kind of a crazy career. So he basically did like noir movies in the 40s, westerns in the 50s, and then epics in the 60s. And in his 50s era with the westerns, he was trying something different where he wanted to use the landscape to represent what was going on internally with the characters. So usually they were up in mountains and it was rocky and it was horrible, it was terrain. And I feel that way with these movies, like we were talking about. I feel that way with the stuff that I've seen that you've made, where you're using the color, you're using the light to extend from the character and get that story solidly across. Um, these movies are like neo-noir movies, you're saying, and they're dark characters, but there's something you're rooting for in them, right?
Yeah.
And the cinematography reflects that. It's dark, almost damn near hard to see sometimes. And there's like just a little bit of light here, that natural light you're talking about. And I think you do a swell job with it, by the way. I think you're doing great. And yeah, I agree. I think it's it's a fun way of storytelling, and it's a great way just to I don't know. I anyway, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it too. It's like the using the lighting or the framing, the compositions, the camera movement to all sort of represent that psychological state. Like that for me is always the goal. And it goes back to what we were saying too about like not being just cool shots for cool shots purpose. It's like it needs to be tethered to that. And yeah, and then I think as a viewer we get connected to it
Oh
for that
yeah,
well, and it's funny, a Western is like that's like my Moby Dick right now. That's all I wanna do is a Western. And like you just described, I mean, using the landscape as like another way to show these inner landscapes is just such a that to me is like so exciting. So,
yeah, that's cool.
hopefully we can manifest it today.
Well,
Yeah.
and also, so I'm a huge fan of westerns. So if you get on one, let me know.
Yep.
I would be more than willing to check it because I'd love to see kind of your style, and have it represent. Which, by the way, I feel personally that westerns are just sort of another noir, or the other way around. Maybe noirs are just kind of modern westerns. The same kind of unsavory characters, the same sort of dark backdrop with some light. Anyway,
All
but
running from themselves. It's like they're all running from
yeah,
something, right? Like the hope of some other kind of yeah, life
yeah.
or what yeah.
And unfortunately, I think the big difference, obviously, between like noir movies and western is noir is just categorically nihilistic, and westerns tend to try not to always be that way, um, although they can be. I just had a thought while we're talking here, and I don't know, maybe I'll keep this in or not, but I'm just curious. Have you? So Have you seen some Hitchcock movies? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and he's kind of an interesting director because he was all about the photography. He knew everything there was, the technical aspects of movies, more than I think any other director has. He knew like what kind of lens and light bulb they were using, and anyway, so he he unfortunately is a favorite. He's a favorite of mine. Unfortunately, as the years went on, especially getting into this new Hollywood era, he really was just still holding on to that studio way of filmmaking. Um, have you seen Topaz?
No. Do I need to?
Dude,
Okay,
dude,
I wanna write it down.
it's not a good movie, but uh, the, I like it. It's as long as film. I think it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Okay.
Um, but there is this scene. Jack Hildyard. I don't know if you know who he is. He's the DP for that movie.
Okay.
He did the Kwai River Bridge on the River Kwai.
Oh, yeah, of course.
There is a scene in Topaz where Roscoe Lee Brown, his character has to go across the street. That's all. That's all it is. Somewhere in his just crazy vision that he had for this film, Hitch, I don't know if he was relying on Hildyard or if he just was like, I got this great idea. But it's like he took the step into New Hollywood without realizing. And this shot is just those 70s for 1969. And I'm like, this came out of the future for him. And it doesn't match the rest of the movie really. There's a lot of studio shots and a lot of bright lighting. Um, but Roscoe Lee Brown crossing the street. So watch Topaz, watch it. And then look for that scene. I'm curious. I'd like for you to stay in
What is
touch with me.
does he, like, move the camera, like, handheld or something? Like, what happens in that scene?
Oh, I'm not gonna tell you. You gotta
Okay,
watch
okay, 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 good. Okay, I can't wait to watch it. Okay, good.
it. um okay, so let's talk about these movies here. Because we love Laura and I just love talking about old movies. And then in the 70s too, like kind of your era of choice here. Golly, there's so many movies that get lost in that
Yeah,
that generation of filmmaking because you start really seeing the difference between the tentpole movies, the big ones, the Superman, Star Wars, and all that, and even those, to be honest, are still uh, not as polished.
it's
And then you also have these other more artistic kind of movies, and you really start seeing a real diverse style of filmmaking. And there's all these movies that slip through the cracks, unfortunately. Now, the ones that you mentioned, and with the outlier of Thief being in early '80s, still has kind of that '70s feel.
yeah,
Um, and these are big ones, but not. I don't hear them talked about a lot. French Connection sometimes, and I want to talk about that with you. So I'm going to start with a gripe that I have about that movie, and it has nothing to do with the movie. I'm probably going to edit this out because no one needs to know this. But damn it,
totally agree. It doesn't make any sense.
that's my big gripe. Now to go on.
Good gripe, though.
Thanks. So the French Connection, um, Gene Hackman, of course, plays Doyle, and it's based on a real character, right?
Real guy, yep, that he went around with, actually, I think, and, like,
Oh,
learned, um, how to be, like, yeah, which is interestingly, there's a correlation with that and Thief, but we can
yeah.
that later, yeah.
So this Doyle character, he's not. I didn't find him very likable.
Not like
Um,
nope,
and it was difficult for me to be kind of cheering him on. I mean, but the thing is he's better than everyone else in the movie. And what about this movie speaks to you? What is it that you're like, oh, this is so good. People need to understand this about this movie.
I mean, I think it's funny because 'cause I'm not like I wouldn't consider myself someone who's, like, into, like, like a detective caper, like, hard-boiled, like, that kind of thing. I think it verges on, like, thriller vibes, like, it definitely has, like, aspects of that. But I think for me, what was so cool about this film, I'm a big Friedkin fan, I'm a big Roisman fan who shot
Yeah.
also, like, Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, he's amazing. Um I think really it was the way that the aesthetics, like, grounded the film in such a way that I was like, "Oh, they did this, like, they did this for real." Like, on the streets of New York, they had, most likely, like, all kinds of issues, just by being on the streets, and I think that to me was impressive and made me feel really connected to it. And just the way that he told that story, they weren't visually, he wasn't afraid to go dark. He wasn't afraid to like really take us into some of these environments and like not polish it at all and just be like, this is what this is. And, Roisman talks about how like he would go in these train stations and he couldn't light it and he just went with available light. And then he didn't change the tubes out and just let them be the colors that they are and the fluorescence like read blue or green and just, not be perfect. And I think that just implanted in my brain so early that I was like, "Oh, great. That's what I would do too." I mean, and, you know, I I think it just really resonated, like, "Oh, you can do that? You can just make a movie and tell the story that way and not have it be perfect and polished in Hollywood and all those things." And it had real documentary vibes. I mean, it felt like a lot of that stuff was just happening for real. So yeah, I love it, and I
Yeah.
think it's one of the greatest car chase sequences I mean, I
Oh,
really
hell yeah.
Vanishing, I mean, that film is I don't know if you've seen it, but
I
it's
have not. Yeah, I know you put it on your list. I'm like, I've not seen
oh,
this.
yeah. Check that film out, it's
Yeah.
also amazing. Totally different, though, it takes place in the West. It's a Western in a way, but it takes place with a car chase, and, anyway, the aspect of car chasing, I think, is so fun for movies. Like, movies are just made for car chases because it's just a great way of telling stories, You can just have, like, A plus B equals C, and, um, what's the other one? Two Lane Blacktop is another one of just, like, an amazing car movie. Yeah.
I haven't seen everything you've done. Have you had a chance to do a car chase yet?
I haven't really I mean, we did a couple in Daredevil, they were cut down,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
obviously. What else have I done in a car? I haven't really done, no, I would love to do that. Feels like I'd love to do it in the West, though, like, shooting it in New York is real tough.
Chaotic.
Yeah, yeah, so especially with the sort of rules that obviously have to exist now and didn't exist during the French Connection, so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
You need kind of an open berth there. You need like a little terrain to just really widen it out. Yeah.
Yeah,
That chase scene in the French Connection is really what stands out to me. Just brilliantly shot and really well edited. And again, talking about the aesthetics of that movie, like I said, it's very documentary like, and it is very dark. There is no fear or blemish on, let's see how dim we can make this because I think it relates to Doyle.
yep,
Because they were not afraid to be like, yeah, this guy says racial slurs, man. This guy is, and he's your hero, you
yeah,
know?
not a yeah, totally, he's not a good dude. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, exactly, and I mean, the lines are blurred. It's like, why is he the one that's taking us through this world, you know? Um, yeah, but it's the darkness there too, and it's the messiness of that world. But I definitely think, over character more than anything, I think it's just the visuals of that film that I
Yeah.
really, really love. And also just a little factoid, Friedkin's son, Cedric, who's incredible, and he's an editor, was our editor on Daredevil, so one of our editors.
No kidding.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't realize he was doing that. That's really cool.
it's so cool, and I met him and I was like, "You realize that French Connection is, like, one of, like, my biggest like, my North Star," and he was like, "Oh my god," like, we were
It like
yeah,
fanned out like adjacently, like I'm gonna geek over you for just a little bit.
doesn't matter. Like, so what's
What's
up with that? Wow.
did you ask him just a whole bunch of stuff? I'm like, hey, when your dad was making this movie.
I wanted to, I just wanted to I mean, we were always ships in the night because he's in a different realm than I am, but he's amazing, and I think he definitely has that, obviously has that in his DNA, so
Going on from French Connection to Klute came out the same year, 71. What a
he's
baller year, by the way. That's some good stuff. So I always say his name wrong because I used to just I grew up thinking his name was Pacula. After some time I'm like his name doesn't sound and rhyme with Dracula, right? Um,
Alan J. Pakula. Anyway,
well, for
master.
the purposes of this episode, his name will be Pacula. It's funny is he started off. He did this movie in the '60s, late '60s, called Sterile Cuckoo, which I think only 3,000 people have seen.
Oh,
It's not very popular. And then I think he's kind of like, hang on, just wait. I'm just for my next movie going to make probably something absolutely amazing. And then he made Klute.
wow.
What is
Interesting.
this? His sophomore picture, and it's this like that's quite impressive. What again some unsavory characters, right?
Yeah,
Jane Fonda's character is socially not of good repute. And but man, I really feel for her, you know?
that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, and wow, I did not know this was his second movie. What an
Yeah.
incredible thing. But no, what I one of the things I do really love about Clue, aside from the visuals, which is a whole other thing, she's like she's a prostitute. She's this woman that we're supposed to, think sort of a certain way about, especially coming out of, that era of America where, there's probably some type of rating system or something that would sort of like kind of work against her. And she's played with such incredible like layers by Fonda does such an amazing job, but really the film just like takes her so seriously and like, you know, just portrays her in this really supportive, honest way. And I think it's really amazing. And also it's really her story. Like, even though it's called Clute, like it's really about her.
Mhm.
And I think like, going back to what we were talking about, just like the psychological state, especially with lighting, like her world is very dark and a lot of very claustrophobic framing and sort of like I mean, Gordon Willis, who's a total god as far as I'm concerned, they called Prince of Darkness, he was definitely not afraid of letting things be in the dark, but he would always have, like, lightness and, some type of, like, something in the frame, and, but then when she meets Donald Sutherland's character, like, the world becomes brighter and, like, sort of her psychological state opens up, and I think it's a really subtle way that they were doing that in this film, which is essentially one of these, like, neo-noir paranoia thrillers as well, but they just show, through her eyes so much in this world that's, like, dominated by men, basically,
Mhm.
who are just, like, taking advantage of her and everybody else, and there's some real darkness in that film, but she's just incredible, like, it's really an anomaly that this film exists with her as the lead and her character being such, an important, leader of the film, like, it blew me away when I saw it, I was like, "Oh my god, again, you can do this? Like, this is okay to do?" And I saw Willis introduce it once at a, screening in Boston, and, I mean, he was great because he was just very like, "Nah, whatever, yeah, I don't know." He was not, waxing poetic, he was just kinda like,
Oh, that's
"Mm."
cool.
Yeah. He's like, "This is what we did because we had to do it." But, that era of filmmaking in New York is so cool, like, they were shooting in practical locations, a lot of available light, a lot of darkness visually, and, it's just really inspiring to me, I think it's really cool.
I had seen that Fonda had won the Oscar, for this, and to be honest, like, I like Jane Fonda, but I was going through all my history for movies, I'm like, "Have I ever seen her, like, pull out that kind of performance before?" And so I was skeptical, going in, but like you said, this is her movie. This
Yeah.
is all her, man, and she nails it. She absolutely nails it. The combination of her, the writing, the direction, the look, they take this character that should have been as historically done, should have been about a cheap, filthy person, but they give you this layer of there's a reason why she's doing this, and there's a different approach to it than you think. You combine the calm girl life that she has, and you parallel with the actor life that she wants. And you see it, you're like, "Oh, this makes sense." This is her performing. And they give her some weight, they give her something to build off of, and she does such a great job. And again, the cinematography, like you said, just reflects all that. Um, it's so dark, but so beautiful, It's just really cool. There's this great moment, it sticks out to me when Sutherland is going after he thinks someone is up on the roof, um, and he's going after him. There's a moment where he climbs down this, like, just kind of back alley ladder, and he drops down and he just stands and he looks around. It's a really quick shot. Damn. The light in the back is all this red and he's in silhouette. And it's just the way it looks and the feelings and emotions that it gives me. Uh, I just was like, yeah, this is filmmaking. This is taking a moment that could have been benign and really giving it a stage and getting across danger, getting across his desire to do something for this woman, and just anyway, I can go.
No, it's true. I mean, I think they nailed it for me. It's like that is cinema to me. It's like, and I really like when those moments happen and it's like, obviously it's controlled and, Willis is a genius, but you're kind of like, did that just happen? Like, did you just land in the most like iconic red light and be silhouetted? And like, because it's like New York, it's like you can turn the corner and you just see the most like epic thing, and it's like, just the stars align and serendipity and you're like, wow, look, the sun's setting at the perfect moment and holy shit. But no, it's that little magic that sort of just like asterisk on this moment that I think, yeah, he did so well, but in a really natural way, like a way that could be sort of just there. um yeah, that's cinema to me. That's like why I get lost in the worlds, is because you can fully sort of just immerse yourself in this headspace, and it's not a headspace that you know of. Like that's, I don't want to go see movies about girls from Vermont that grew up riding horses like me. It's like see these worlds that, I anyway. But and the other thing you were saying too, which I think is really true and definitely like for me something that's fascinating, is like these films about people who are wearing masks or sort of like living in these different lives and kind of moving through these worlds, like Fonda is like her world versus wanting to be an actress, and kind of like these roles that we adopt. I mean, obviously that was an interesting part of Daredevil for me too, but it's just like we're all putting on these cloaks and trying to be different people at any one time, and the way that we can represent that visually is just such a fun challenge. Like that
Mhm.
dichotomy is, I love it. I'll kind of never get sick of it. It's so fun.
Moving on to my favorite of the bunch, which is Thief, and from 1981. I'm a huge Michael Mann fan. I think ever since what was the first movie I saw of his? I think the first one I saw of his was his Outlier, The Last of the Mohicans,
Oh yeah.
um,
He's
which is it does not match the rest of his catalog.
no.
Not in looks anyway. But as far as direction and pacing and everything, it totally does, and storytelling. But from then on, I was like, I gotta follow this guy. And then I learned later that he was responsible for the show Miami Vice. I'm like, oh yeah, I could totally tell. And so Thief is his first movie,
Crazy.
and not only his, but Donald Thornton's first movie.
Yep.
Where did this guy come from? Like he had done some TV, and then I wanna be there for that conversation. Was, like, Michael Mann just kinda like, "Hey, Donald, this is what I want you to do?" Or was Donald just like, "Hey, I got some ideas?" Whatever it was, they created a style that has had its own sub-styles and subgenres since, There are some movies that when I watch, I feel cool. Like, I just feel like, "Get me a leather
Yeah.
jacket." Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Lost Boys is one of those movies.
Oh, man.
Le Samurai, have you ever seen that from
Love that
1967?
movie.
And anything really Michael Mann. Collateral, Heat, and Thief. You put it on and you just like can pop my collar.
Yep.
Um,
100%. That's movies, right? That's what it should be. Yeah.
yeah. So tell us about Thief. I mean, like I imagine it's gonna be a lot of the same stuff that you said about the other two. But I want to know like your thoughts on that movie. What does it for you for that film?
Well, yeah, and just to go back, the story that I read about Thorin was that he was Mann's gaffer. He worked with him on something as a gaffer, and
Oh.
Michael Mann is said that he's like, "I'm the type of director that wants to compose a frame and is looking through the camera as opposed to, letting my cinematographer do it." So he wanted somebody that could focus on lighting, and really he could talk to him about what he wanted for lighting and for image, and then Mann would be creating, like the compositions. And so I think it sounds like that relationship worked really well as a collaboration coming from that place. And so Yeah, it sounds like they had that, and again, like, going back to what you're saying about collaboration, like, sometimes it's that. It can be, like, sort of non-traditional, but it really works for them and the way that they were getting those images on screen. And then learning that Thorin comes from a gaffing background made all the sense because the lighting in that film is so evocative and so, like, I mean, they nailed it in terms of all the things we're talking about. It's like the king example of just, like, naturalism, heightened cinematic, like that, oh my god, like the stuff, obviously the wet down streets and, like all of the colors and the use of blue, but the some of the shots when they're breaking into the safe with, like, the use of sparks and how it's just,
Yeah.
like, blowing out the film and they just go for, I mean, I'm just like, "This is masterful." Like, it blew the back of my skull out when I watched. I was like, "Everybody, I hope, like, am I the only one that thinks this is like, Drive is just this film?" Like, it's the same. I mean, they even use, like, the same type of font for the title. Like, it's essentially, I mean, which, oh my god, like, amazing film as well. Drive is a beautiful film. I love it, but it's essentially the same film, which
Yeah.
is cool.
And even Belushi.
This is his first movie too, I think.
Yeah, and you know who else? Robert Prosky, the guy that plays, the heavy. This is his debut.
Wow.
50 years old. He's just like, "You know what? I'm just gonna knock it out of the park when I get in this movie."
So cool. I
And
mean,
I've not seen him play a role even hinting toward this kind of character afterward. It is just diabolical.
diabolical, and that scene when he's in the house and he's sort of like sort of like the cat and mouse that's happening. I mean, it's so good. Also, talk about cool. Like, nothing is cooler than James Caan just walking around, like, not rushed at all. He's just being like a total badass.
Like, right after the safe, welding,
Yeah, he just
and
sits there
he just sits there and he puffs a
watching it.
cigarette in his mouth.
It's, I mean, just the coolest. I mean, but again, like, this trope of these guys who, like, he wants to settle down, but he can't ever happen, and that's never gonna work out for him, and, like, this woman, like, who loves him but knows that it's never gonna, and I mean, it's like he basically just had to tell her, like, "You have to go because, if you stay, this is gonna be it," and so it's just, again, it's the same character. I mean, it's like PTA does this in his movie, like, this is the same storytelling in all these movies of these, like, I mean, I'm trying to think of, like, what the female version of that is. I know it exists, but there is something about the trope of, like, this layered darkness guy who just can't really be in the world and has to be this lone wolf.
I was reading, I guess James Caan had a real hard time with this role because he likes to be very emotionally available. And he's like, "But this character is like no emotion," and so he didn't know what to do.
No, that's really interesting when you think of, like, you know, him struggling with it too, like, everyone sort of struggling to be the thing that's outside of their comfort zone, it's really interesting and, like, where he landed because it's like, I don't see that, like, I don't see that in the performance, I don't see that that's what his struggle was. I mean, those scenes, man, the scenes with Willie Nelson too, oh my goodness, like,
Yeah.
just the best.
One of
Um,
my favorites is when, I won't say who in case people haven't seen this movie, but something sad happens to a character, and a doctor comes out and tells James Caan about it, and Caan just stares at him without response. Apparently, that was not a rehearsed thing. That was not what was supposed to happen. Caan is actually staring at that actor and just giving him the eye, and the actor had no idea what was going on, so his reaction in the movie is him really freaked out and, like,
wow.
scared of what Khan's doing.
Oh my gosh, that's so, isn't it wild when those moments happen, like the third wall gets kinda broken and people just react, like, in a normal human way, it's just, reminds me of that story, I think, was it Kramer versus Kramer with, Dustin Hoffman and, Meryl Streep, and they're at a table having an argument, and, like, he throws a wine glass against a wall, and apparently it
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
scripted, and it, like, rightly so, freaks her out, but it's in the movie, like, her reaction is in the movie, and I just think it's like, man, that's so cool in those moments. As long as nobody gets hurt, it's, like, so cool in those moments happen.
Yeah. And it just kinda lets you know that they're dialed into the story. They're
Yeah.
dialed into the character, and it works out. Earlier, you mentioned something of Doyle, Gene Hackman traveling around, with the guy that it's based on. And then you alluded to Thief, but there's a similarity there. So tell us, what's that similarity there?
Yeah, I think the story goes that, Mann insisted that Khan learn how to become like a safecracker, like how to, how to break open locks and use this massive, I think it was a magnetic drill. It was like this really heavy drill that they cut the hole in through the
Oh, in
safe.
the beginning of the movie?
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
essentially he became, like, versed in that, and he was like he talked about how hard it was and all this stuff and how he thought the guy was kinda crazy for forcing him to do it, but again, like, it just I think man's intention was to the performance becomes second nature. It's like you're not thinking about what you have to do in terms of the process. It's just you just know it, like you know it in your bones. And so then it comes across as a lot more sort of natural and for everybody. It's like for the cinematographer as well to be shooting it. It's just it's one less step that you have to think of. It's one less
Yeah.
artificiality. And I think that's so cool. And it's so neat that people are willing to do that. So
There's an extension to that whole realism. Man had hired as consultants both police and criminals
oh wow.
for the movie. Most of them got cast in the film, and a lot of them are on opposite sides. So, Dennis Farina, right?
Yeah.
So he used to be a cop. He was actually a cop during the making of this movie. Anyway, he's a bad guy. He's a criminal in this movie, and he was a cop. And
Interesting.
then
Yeah.
what's his name? Santucci, I think is the actor's name. He plays I forgot his cop's character name, but he's the one that's like, "You remember my name."
Oh,
You know
yeah.
who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He was a known criminal, and he's playing a cop in this movie.
Uh,
Um, and I guess apparently, as the story goes, that the statute of limitations had run out for most of these criminals on the things they had done.
Amazing.
So they would brag to the cops on set on how they got away with stuff.
Oh my god, that's so good. That's so awesome. Man, there's such a huge part of me of, like, that wishes I could just teleport myself back to that era and, like, just the behind the scenes of a set like that is
Yeah.
just amazing.
Great film, great picks that you've put here. And now I want to ask you a couple more questions before we go, and these might be a little tough.
Okay.
Uh, so Wildlike, um, was the one you won the award for, the Hirschfeld
Yep.
Award. I noticed you did a lot of your shots like with the camera low. This isn't the tough question. I'm just personally curious. Is that so you can kind of magnify the exterior?
Yeah, it was really to see the mountains and see the world, and, we shot that all on location in Alaska. It was essentially just a small crew that caravaned every day to a different location and landed and shot, and it was, an on-the-road movie in theme, but also in practice and logistics, and so we were all over Alaska, and I think we were aside from Into the Wild, I think we were, like, the only or one of the few crews that was allowed to shoot in Denali, and so we were all over there and on glaciers and climbing up to the top of the giant cliffs and looking I mean, it was amazing experience, and all on 35, like, carrying a 35 millimeter package everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, so and it was all, for the most part, all handheld, which was really cool for me, I loved it. But yeah, I think that was why. The other reason too is, it happens sort of naturally, is I do a lot of hip operating, the camera's actually, like, on my hip because it's just, like, it's either shoulder or hip. I don't really use, like, a rig, and so it could also be that. It could actually operating and looking slightly lower, so
So
yeah.
you heard it here. Hillary's like, yeah, it's part of the story also because too lazy for a rig. I'll just hold on to my hip.
Yeah. Very stable, I was born with hips, so might as well use
So this movie, if you listeners haven't seen this, it's a pretty good movie. And it starts Bruce Greenwood, who I think is a very overlooked actor.
Agree. Amazing actor, amazing person too,
Oh, is
genuinely
he?
brilliant, nice, yeah.
And this was you were living in New York at the time.
Yep.
So this is New York to Alaska. Did you feel like Joel Fleischman in Northern Exposure? Is that?
Yes. I think we all did. It was it's entirely New York crew, and we landed there, we're like, "Okay," and there was I mean, I think one of our first days, we were shooting in town in Anchorage at the house, which was one of the only things we shot even remotely close to a city, and a moose just walked right up on the front yard, so, you know, as advertised, Alaska was showing up, so
So I noticed in this movie for the start of it, there is still that sort of 70s inspired sort of documentary feel, right? In the airport, kind of just the building of her backstory and everything. And it's got that same sort of dimly lit in some areas look and feel. And then as the story opens up, so does the cinematography, and you're outside. So a couple questions. One, was that a challenge for you going from, and I guess my tandem question is in there, which is when you're seeking projects or when projects come to you, are you looking for something that already matches your style, or are you looking for something that does challenge that style?
Such a good question because I think it's a little of I'm always looking to be challenged and do something I haven't done before, but I definitely naturally gravitate towards this sort of like not just my visual style, but like these sort of themes that we're talking about that I think lend themselves to be photographed this way. But since then, I've done a lot of stuff kind of on purpose that took me out of that. Like Run's a good example. Like that movie is very controlled. And, like, needs to be in the way that we're telling that story, so, um, I think then I mean, when did we do Wildlife? Would have been, like,
Oh,
2012, I think, around then,
okay, yeah.
11?
It came out in 14, I think. So,
Yeah, I
but yeah.
think we did it a couple years before. Um, and I was actually on a documentary called Oxiana, which we were shooting down in West Virginia at the time and took, like, a couple months off and went and did this film, and, so it was all kind of in my head and in my body, it was shooting in this style, so I think that's sort of but it also the film really asked for it, it was really like we shot it as her experiencing the world and sort of, as much true to form as possible, and Frank Hall Green, the director, who's amazing, was very well versed in Alaska. He had been up there a lot hiking, and I think wrote the film sort of based on his experience in that world. So, all that to say that I think I do both. I think I look for things that are very out of my comfort zone and then try and connect myself to
Mm,
them myself in them, but then I also really love something that just feels like completely up my alley and something in the way that I see the world. But it's also why I love kind of doing both documentaries and narrative too, because I think they kind of satiate all the things, which I'm very lucky that I can have opportunity to do. So
well, I mean, you did a swell job in Wildlife, because it's I would imagine it's tough to sort of marry the first half of the movie with the back half, and you do a great job. I don't feel like I mean, I never felt like I was watching 2 separate films. I felt I just went from inside to outside, really, and then that outside photography is so good. The sun-kissed objects in the open field, the mist in the mountains. I mean, it's good stuff.
it was amazing experience, but that's also her experience too, like, she was getting outside of the confinements of what was happening in her world, and then it all opened up and changed her whole life, and, through Bruce's, like, his character's guidance, and, but I mean, yeah, I mean, some of my best friends in the world were on that film, and new people that I met that became some of my best friends in the world through that experience. I mean, it was truly just one of those really special ones that, again, like, said yes, I was nowhere near Alaska, nowhere near that heading that direction, and just that came, my way and took a leap of faith, and so glad that I did.
A couple more questions, and I'll let you go, I promise.
Oh,
Uh,
I love it. Oh,
you mentioned Western is something you'd like to do.
love it.
Outside of just a genre, what would you love to shoot?
Mm, like, subject matter or just, like, adventure-wise?
Up to you, buddy, whatever you want.
Interesting. I mean, I would love to do, like, this film, Quick and the Dead. I know it's a Western, but just
Oh, so good.
oh my god, it's so good, but, like, Sharon Stone's character in this film, I would love to do, like, a sort of badass female Western, and not just the fact that it's, like, female, but just the fact that it's,
Right.
like, got this, like, incredible I would love to do, like, my version of, like, a neo-noir, but with, like, sort of like a female protagonist, but never make any light of the fact of the gender, you know what I mean? Like, it would just be something like that. Interestingly enough, and now that I'm saying this, I feel like tomorrow I'm gonna, like, have some opportunity to do this, but I'm not really interested in space, although I feel like it could be really cool. I just, I'm definitely more kind of rooted on the earth. So that's a good question. What would be my anything in nature with horses, count me in. I'm in.
Really? Because I'm gonna say, after seeing what I've seen that you've done and looking at the movies you've selected as your favorites,
A lot of
Horses in
state.
nature does
I
not
know.
quite fit into that.
I know, but, this is outside of my zone. This is
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
Horses and dogs, I'd love to make a pit bull movie. I love pit bulls, so, yeah.
Well, that's great. That's cool. Well, I hope you do it.
Oh, I just thought of something else I would love to do. I'd really love to do a thriller in the winter, like, outside in the snow. I'd love to do
Ooh,
something that is not hiding in the dark, but is actually, like, very bright,
right.
blood on snow kinda thing, yeah.
Final question. What's next for you?
Currently, I'm working on a series about Robert Redford and the him starting the Sundance Institute. So, the way that he created the labs and sort of the labs for these filmmakers in the '70s, and the impact that that's made on the entire landscape of cinema, basically since it sort of has tendrils and everything. And it's also about the process of being an artist, and especially Redford's backstory and his sort of history with that, not only obviously he was an incredible actor, but he was a painter, and he really pursued this life of figuring out, what makes us all do the things that we do, and all of that, and the way that he touched so many lives with that and enabled so many people to make this work. So it's been a really incredible process so far. I don't even know if we're halfway in at the moment, but we're doing a lot of filming on 16 and a lot of interviews, and there's a lot of archival, and that era of Redford is amazing. I mean, he's like, it's just stunning to even just see him, like in that time period, but also collaborating with all these other filmmakers and seeing them in that time period. It's just been really inspiring. And it's been a good reminder of like, we're all connected. This is an amazing community. So been working on that, and it's been awesome because it's been a nice, like, sort of like going from Daredevil to this is interesting, so different, but storytelling as well. So been really cool.
Hillary, thank you so much,
Thank
man. Thank
you.
you for this, and your wealth of knowledge has been wonderful, and it's just been great just chatting movies with you too. I look forward to seeing your dog movie in the snow with blood on it, and set in the West.
Um, with female protagonist, yes.
The protagonist.
Punch.
Very, can't wait for that.
Can't wait.
I'll start working on a title for it right now.
Thank you.
Anyway,
Uh,
thank you so much. And on behalf of my wife, who wasn't able to join us today, as always, that's our take.